And are we okay? So we are online now, and I think we're all here. We'll just wait for Denise before we start, because I think we've got apologies from.
We have, thank you, Leader. We've got apologies from Councillors Hopwood and Hodgson. Thank you.
Right. Oh dear. Travel ahead. Sorry? Yeah, they are. Yeah. Just on the, well, we're waiting for Denise. There's the declarations of interest, I presume there's the natural dispensation. I don't know if David, because we all pay car parking charges. Well, but the majority of us do.
Yes, Leader, no, not an issue.
Thank you, David. Excellent. Good, we're all here. So we crack on with the agenda. Agenda item 1, urgent business. I've got no urgent business to bring forward. Item 2, division of agenda. There's no need to divide the agenda. Item 3, declarations of interest. We just heard from David that it's not an issue, the fact that we pay car parking charges. And now to the substantive item on the agenda. Car parking proposals. Victor, over to you.
Thank you. We've been consulting for some time, and we are faced with rising costs of materials, rising costs of staff, the necessary work on the car parks to maintain them in their working sense. We wish, as we've heard from the shops and businesses, we too want to support the shops and businesses, and there is a range of views as to how that should and shouldn't happen, but we also need to keep our council going. We provide a range of services, and this will be our proposal. The details of the charges themselves have been worked on assiduously and repeatedly by the team, who are few in number, and have written the detail and the presentation of the consultation. They've responded to queries. They've revised the way various charges can be played off one against another. What we've done here is to set out an innovative proposal, sufficiently innovative that it has never been deployed across a full district. Software improves, technology becomes more versatile, and the means to take up the most benefit from this is with the 70% of our users with a modern phone, but we have a plan to look after the 30% of our other residents too. We originally set out to simplify and to standardise charges, because we see across the board on an overview of all the charges, indeed everyone looking at the papers today can see that. For a user at a car park at any one time, they'll just see the charges in the one car park. When we choose to go to a town outside of our own, we probably will not know what the car parking charge is in, but if we were going to Salcombe, say, we're going for the particular shops, or we're going because it's beautiful. So our original plan went out to consultation, and lo and behold, people had different ideas. They had different ideas on which parameters should be addressed coincidentally, and we can't do everything all at once. And so we'll be revisiting other issues like permits over time. They had the ideas why the charges should be rebalanced. They had their eye on the visitors and the staff travelling in from adjacent districts. And they were plainly concerned for the security of businesses in their towns. It might be that you represent a rural ward, and you might ask about your own consultation, but of course you'll actually be going to the towns to park. It's where these car parks are located. And town councils we've accepted are intrinsically working for the success of their towns, as indeed we hope for as well. So we proposed a pony and we were hoping for a horse, and you might consider that we've ended up with something else. We have set charges to reflect the absence of previous annual increases. It is not since 2021 that there's been a price increase. And there is an expected need for further funds. The charges that will be displayed will be on the board, and these will be the maximum charges at this time, but we're also offering this residents discount. Residents who pay council tax to South Hams and have one or more cars registered at the same address can avail themselves of a residents discount through an application and payment of an administrative fee. They would be able to avail of that discount anywhere in the district, or if they're paying by cash, they would be able to get an extra half hour free. Yes, it's not the same benefit, but perhaps there's some consolation in not having to pay for a smartphone and its charges. And they'll get that benefit across the whole district. This is the sort of the philosophy behind this strategic approach we're taking. And of course, I was going to say there's 9 of us here, but with 7 of us here, then there might be 8 opinions. But I think that this is an answer to the problem, and we have responded to consultation, and I bring before you these items on the monitor screen. Would you like me to read them out?
Vic, I don't think you need to do that.
So thank you. And all the numbers behind this, of course, much better looked after by our officers. Thank you very much. And but I hope I can join in too.
Thank you, Victor, and thank you for all the work you've done on this. I know you visited all the towns to get feedback from them. Stuart, Emma, is there anything that you'd like to add at this stage?
No, it's more questions really. Obviously, anything to do with parking is always going to be difficult. We're starting from a very different place in lots of towns, so the charges we're putting forward don't standardise them, but they do try to harmonise them better than they are now. So that's probably where some towns will have cases about the changes being bigger than they are for other places, but some towns are more expensive than others and will still be so. So by not standardising, we've had to make a small movement towards that.
No, thank you for that, Stuart. Right. Well, members, over to you. Any comments, thoughts, ideas? John?
I have a question. Just for clarification. On the residence discount scheme, will that be the discount apply throughout the district, or is it just at the town where you reside?
So the discount apply to all car parks.
Any?
Yeah, no, Jed, I'll bring you. Well, Denise, and then I'll come to you, Jed. Denise.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, we've certainly listened to our towns. We've been out and spoken to them and listened to what they had to say. And we haven't raised charges since 2021, so that's quite a number of years. So that might look like the charges are, more than they a bigger rise than they actually are. So that's all well and good, and the differential, we have listened, and the differential is now smaller between residents and visitors than it was. I don't, I have to say, I don't support the charge for residents to have a lower, to pay a larger charge. Is it £5 per car? I think it's good that we've said it's unlimited per vehicle, because, you know, a lot of people now have more than one vehicle. But I don't think we should be charging, and certainly per vehicle, £5 per vehicle, that would tend to add up. So, and the other thing is, it seems to have thrown up some sort of possibly anomalies. Like I've had a number of people contact me about. I'm ward member for Kingsbridge, and I know the town council there had asked for changes to the 4th Street car park at the top, where it was limiting the time you can stay there to 4 hours. I don't know whether that's fed into the prices that now appear that we're considering. Currently for residents it's £1 for an hour, for up to 3 hours, I think, or if you stay for 3 hours it's £1. And I think the suggestion is for it to be £5 for residents. That's even before you look at visitors, and that's, if my maths is correct, it's a 500% increase. So I think that's right. I'm not sure that I would be able to go for anything like that, because I don't quite know the workings out, the calculations, but it seems to me to be a bit of a shot in the foot. So it's that sort of thing that it might throw up. I don't know about other towns, so I couldn't support that in its current you know, how it's currently displayed. But I do agree with the principle of what we're doing, and we have changed things and according to what town councils have said. So I'm pleased about that.
Thank you. Do you want to just comment on that?
Yeah, just on what Councillor O'Callaghan said there about the Kingsbridge 4th Street car park. We were asked by 2 of the town councils, Ivybridge and Kingsbridge, to consider what was currently long stay parking charges, encouraging people to stay long stay in the car parks, to make them short stay car parks. And by doing that, we've changed those tariffs so that in a short stay car park, the longer you are there, the tariff increases significantly more, because the whole idea is for it to be a short stay car park, and the turnaround is for sort of the 1 and 2 hour bracket. So the principles, they were the principles that we were working on in coming up with those charges, based on the feedback from the consultations with the towns that said we would like these car parks to become short stay car parks for the benefit of shoppers, rather than long stay for the benefit of people spending all day there. That's just a bit of an explanation. Thank you.
I'll just add to that. Also, Ivybridge, as Mr. Molyneux mentions, has seen a significant increase in one of its car parks, but the overall rate that's coming out in that particular car park is £1 an hour, and compared to the financial sensibility of the current car park and what the shops need in turnover, we're hoping that this is a better approach.
Thank you, Victor. Jed, do you want to?
So I appreciate the principle of being able to speak up, and in the absence of Nikki and Jackie, I think it's fallen to myself to make a comment, to read out some feedback from Dartmouth. This comes from the Dartmouth Transport Parking Advisory Group, and it represents the considered feedback from the community that represents businesses and residents alike from the areas of Dartmouth and Kingswear. The paper before the Executive Committee is a travesty of the results of the consultation with towns, particularly in relation to differential parking. Your updated proposal is not representative of the views of the consultation. SHDC has abandoned any concept of consistent charging across all the car parks. Point 2, there is no indication that any cost-benefit analysis has been prepared, and we are increasingly concerned. Without this analysis, there is no way SHDC can assess whether this is a viable scheme. The original contribution you told us you were seeking from Dartmouth was £107,000. Using your data for car parking use in 23-24, applying the revised proposed charges, the income for Dartmouth is close to £190,000. This is significantly more than the £107,000 that you were seeking in October, and this disparity is unbelievable. How are you going to reduce it down to the expectation from Dartmouth that you're proposing in October of £107,000 as part of your budgetary process? How do you intend to handle the massive, legitimate adverse public reaction that is expected to come? SHDC recognises this from agenda item 12, page 109, in the original proposal of the 10th of October. And the consequences of businesses and residents in Dartmouth have clearly not been adequately considered. And in the view of the group, the credibility of the proposal is in tatters. So that was a statement that I was asked to read out on behalf of my residents. I feel duty bound that I must communicate their sentiment. Thank you.
Thanks, Jed. Dan.
Can I just check, Jed? Did the second point was the second line just unhappiness that we hadn't made the charges consistent across the district?
That is one of the observations, the comment, the
Okay.
conclusion from the group. So there's, I see from. Yes, that's the.
No, I was just checking because, of course, therein lies, and another word that was used later on, I think, was travesty, and of course, therein lies the travesty of asking 5 different groups of people to come up with 5 different sets of opinions. Because, of course, what's happened is that the travesty is that the other 4 councils haven't agreed with Dartmouth that there should be, because Dartmouth said, I think, that there should be. They agreed, didn't they, that there should be consistent levels, and everyone else didn't. Or did the town council not agree with that?
They didn't agree.
So the town council didn't agree, but your group. That's why I'm getting confused, Jed.
So if I could help, so Jed, thank you for representing the views of your group, your community. I think the point that you're making, Councillor Thomas, is exactly the right one. The original modelling, the original proposal was of a consistent scheme for charging across the whole district. And as Stuart explained, there was feedback from the towns that was not what they thought was the appropriate way to do it. As a result of the remodelling, as Stuart has said, we start from where we start. And therefore, it's inevitable that we land up with a different outcome. So we can't both have a consistent charging across the district and not have a consistent charging across the district. It's not possible to have 2 things which are diametrically opposed and both true at the same time. The consequences of that is that a number of the other things have changed. We're trying to achieve a district-wide scheme here for the benefit of all of the residents and all of the towns and the district as a whole. And inevitably, there are compromises to be had.
Can I come back? So Councillor Yardley, sorry, I shouldn't have called you Jed. Councillor Yardley, sorry. So can I just, so I'm clear in my mind. So does that the group that you represent, are they at odds then with the town council view?
Given that the consultation timelines are what they are, there is no real opportunity for a cycle of governance cycle. You receive the papers, you have them for 4 weeks, you have a town council meeting. There's not the possibility for a thoroughly engaged discussion to take place in that limited time. So this group represent as best we can the views of Dartmouth businesses, Dartmouth residents, and so therefore I wish to represent that at this particular meeting. If we'd had longer, we may be able to get the councils totally aligned with the outcomes. As a result of the limited engagement, we're not.
John, did you want to?
I think what's important to remember, if you don't mind me talking to you directly, Jed, that this is not a final decision. This is a request to go out to public consultation, which we're, as a council, are required to do. Therefore, if the Dartmouth Town Council or your group wish to make representations in this consultation, then there's an opportunity for them to do that. as it says within the recommendations, those will be considered and a paper put before a meeting of the executive, I think, is it 23rd of January? That is when the final decision is made. So a final decision isn't being reached at this meeting. It's just proceeding to the next step, which is public consultation. So putting it bluntly, you haven't missed the boat. There's an opportunity, that group, you and the town council, to make further representations, bearing in mind the response that you get at this meeting to what's been said.
Thank you, I acknowledge that. There are no further parish council meetings as yet planned between now and January the 7th. So we have not got the opportunity to run through a cycle with the parish council.
No, I thought this point is made, but this point has been made by several town and parish councils. The fact is, we do not meet until the 23rd of January. Therefore, if a further few days are needed, then I'm sure they will be taken into account when the report is prepared and a recommendation comes to this council. There has to be a statutory time limit for consultation. The fact that it ends or will end on the 7th or whenever, the decision isn't being taken until the 23rd.
Thank you for the clarification.
Can I just also check with officers here? So Dartmouth Town Council said they didn't want to have a standardisation of that. So we listened to them, and now another group in Dartmouth that now claims to represent all the businesses and the people of Dartmouth, as opposed to the town council, which obviously, I mean, I would have thought they do the same, is saying that actually there should be standardisation. I mean, I think it's very hard for a council to hear one voice saying, we don't want to standardise it, we react, and then another voice saying, oh no, that's totally wrong and it's a travesty. You know, I mean, that we're sort of, you know, we're damned if we do and damned if we don't on that. You know, the town council, who we consulted with and had their stakeholders, you know, the executive members, Victor went out and met with them, said they didn't want standardisation. So I think a lot of those comments should be directed at the town council, not at South Hams. We've done what the town council wanted us to do there.
We just have to politely disagree on that.
So yes, and at the last executive, we fed back the results from the consultations, and it was that they didn't want standardisation of charges. If we don't have standardisation of charges, that's why what we gain from each town changes, because actually we're trying to gain the same income in a different way. The other point I would just make to Councillor Yardy is actually we did a lot of engagement with Dartmouth. So on top of the town meeting, which we had with them, we had a further 2 meetings with 2 of their representatives, and we probably supplied more information to Dartmouth than anyone. I would say we'd probably emailing almost on a daily basis to some of their representatives to give them information to that group, and we've always engaged with them and said that actually we'll do further information if they need it. The biggest issue they were raising with us was about the permits, and we've accepted that we need to review permits, and we're going to do that in the new year once we've managed to put differential parking in. So it's not fair to say that we haven't engaged with them.
I agree, you've engaged. The same individuals provided me with this feedback this morning. So it's the same individuals that you have been working with, and I appreciate that, and they appreciate that, but they're seeing that their calculations come to 190,000, not 107. So it'd be good to have a discussion to understand the assumptions behind that.
It's because we've changed the charges, because we're not going to consistent charges. You know, it's not a proposal for Dartmouth charges, it's a proposal for Southam District Council charges. And when you go away from standardisation of charges to get the same level of income in without standardising the charges, it means that how much we get from each town has changed. The model has changed.
So what you're saying on that is that basically we'll be getting less from some of the other towns because we haven't standardised the charges, yes, and Dartmouth will be carrying a heavier burden.
But if
heavier than they were going to be, but it's still going to be bigger contributions from some of the other towns.
Also, sorry, Julian, sorry, Leader. I think also on the point of standardisation, if I recall, how many of the towns wanted standard? So none of the towns, when asked, wanted standardisation. So coming back to the Kingsbridge point, that is a product of that decision. Everything else is fundamentally impacted by the decision not to go for 2 standard bands across the district. That absolutely reflects the view of all of the towns. The towns were asked to consult with and engage their businesses in that conversation. But like everything else in car parking, everybody's always unhappy. And you can't solve that.
Okay, but I mean, I think the point that Jed makes there about 107 and how it's now 190, I mean, that is a sizable difference. I mean, and I just wonder if there's anything we can do to mitigate that, or
So it's because Dartmouth wouldn't have seen much of an increase because they were one of the most expensive already, and we were bringing the other councils up to that level. When you don't go for a standard charge and you're looking at increasing everybody's charges, then obviously that contribution will be bigger from Dartmouth than it was if it had been a standardised charge.
Leader, could I make the point as well? Sorry to intervene, but the cost of delivering Southam's services are not uniform across the district either. Some of our services are delivered in some places, some not in other geographical places. It's really difficult to work out. Once you break down the district into smaller parts, there's always going to be a place that says we're paying more than we're getting. Look at the provision of leisure, look at the provision of car parks, look at the provision of other services. It's almost impossible to work it out. Somebody will always feel disadvantaged, like they're paying more than they should. Others will always be potentially benefiting. We're trying to provide a district-wide system. That is the proposal in front of you.
okay.
Just so I can understand the point we're making about this, is it proportionately the rise that Dartmouth is going to be meeting because of how we haven't made it the same? Is that proportionately the same as what it was before? Because we're putting rates up at a level relevant to what they were previously in different areas. So proportion, have the percentage, will the percentages change massively?
No, so that's right. So when we were standardising, the extra contribution we said each town would be making was based on, so Ivy Bridge was a massive contribution because they were coming from such a low thing. To what we've now said is we're going to be increasing all of our car parking, so we're still getting the same level of income in, but the extra money coming from each car park has now changed. But the totality of what we're getting across South Hams is still the same, but it's a completely different model to standardising our charges. The other point which we're not making here is that's not the total income they now contribute to our budget. It's the extra it's going to contribute compared to what it was before. Totnes is our biggest income revenue from car parking, not Dartmouth, but Dartmouth charges us. Yeah. So, there's lots of different ways of looking at it and making your own argument for your own town.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm just looking at Dartmouth. What it all boils down to, it's the law of supply and demand, isn't it? In Dartmouth's town centre, I'm not talking about Park and Ride and up by the health centre. The town centre only has effectively one car park, and it's impossible for anyone at any time, except in the dead of night, to be able to park there. And on top of that, Jed, what you have mentioned in the past is the problem is parking permits. That's being used a lot by parking permits, so other people who want to park can't park there. There's a particular problem at Mayor's Avenue, a car park. And you can't say that is representative of the car parks elsewhere in the district. And may I mention Totnes? I mean, Totnes has its own problems, but I'm not belly aching about the charges because the big problem with Totnes, there isn't enough car parking. The other night, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, couldn't get a car parking space in Totnes. So, but the point is this: we have a situation in Dartmouth where in the centre of the town there is a complete lack of car parking, and the prices that are being proposed really reflect that, but coupled with the need to look at the car parking permits, which you've mentioned on several occasions.
Yeah, no, of course, Jed. Yeah.
So thank you for acknowledging the permits. Here's a proposition: 190,000 versus 107. That's 83,000 difference. Could we expand the bus park and ride, the ride pass perspective, so we can push the excess requirement on that car park up to the top of town? If we improve the bus service, we use the park and ride, you gain more revenue. We would gain more revenue through that. But to enable it, we must have the bus.
That's something you must put in your response. This must be part of the point that comes out in the response during the consultation period. Now that, that's for this council to consider.
Thank you, Jed. I think what we've seen with the modelling is that there is always the result of unintended consequences. And Dartmouth Town, if they probably knew that when they said they didn't want to standardise car parking, knew that it was going to mean that they were going to have to increase their amount from 107, they might have thought differently. And likewise, I think it's absolutely true to say about Kingsbridge and Ivybridge, who wanted to switch from long stay to short stay, who will see a, without trying to trivialise the points that you've raised, Jed, to see a car park increase go up by 500% for local residents. Personally, I'm not happy about that. Not least because Kingsbridge is my local town, but I do think that that both Kingsbridge 4 Street and Leonard's Road in Ivybridge, that we should see what the consultation comes back with, and we may have to think again on those in respect, because again, I very much doubt that the town councils who wanted to change those for good reasons to short stay rather than long stay didn't realise the implications and the consequences that would mean. So I think we should look at, I would hope, well, we will see what comes back from the public consultation. But my own view is that if Kingsbridge and Ivybridge feel so that the changes from those from long stay to short stay have resulted in unacceptable increases, then we should think again on that. Yeah, just so that's my view on that. I think also like to talk about the £5 charge for a permit. Look, we had a presentation yesterday from the revenue pressures that we're going to be under, and it was quite clear that this present government, as things stand, don't appear to be a friend of rural district councils. I mean, we are losing a lot of money. The rural delivery service grant is over £500,000, and that is going to be, they euphemistically call it repurposed. What they mean is it's going now, which means we need to try and maximise our revenue as much as possible. And we don't really want to do any of this. We wouldn't want to do any of this in respect of increases in car parking charges. But I do think that initially we were looking to the administration charges of setting up a residence discount service. We were prepared to take the cost of that, absorb it. But I think now we find ourselves in a situation that's not acceptable. Well, not acceptable. I just think we need to take the opportunity for charging for the admin to get onto the discount scheme. It's £5. I mean, it's not a massive amount of money. I appreciate that everything is tight. But I do think, I hope that executive members would be able to support that. I know that from what I've heard, there is various disquiet about that, and I'm happy to take that as a separate vote. It's not actually teased out in the recommendations, is it?
Yeah, it is. The recommendation.
Okay, so recommend, yeah, but the thing is that's launch a residence parking discount scheme as described. But so I would hope that we'd all support the residence discount scheme. It's just whether you have to pay to be on that part of that scheme. John, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that £5 for a scheme which will save you a lot more than £5. It just, it covers the administration charges and all. We're going to have to employ people to deal with that. It's going to be a cost. We're going to have to. It just warrants £5, which after parking 2 or 3 times you will have saved that anyway. So I think, and against the light of what we were told yesterday in our budget talk, it's chicken feed compared with the other challenges we've got. So I think rather than just argue over £5, I'd support the recommendation as it is on the paper.
Thank you, John. Victor.
It may be 2 or 3 times, maybe as many as 10, but it is certainly finite, and it is per car, as Councillor Callaghan was saying earlier. But presumably, if both cars are being used, or 3 or 4, down to the town, then presumably that's that many drivers also using the car parks, or also gathering up their 2 or 3 or 10 number of visits, so that this will be overcome and the discount will be of value to a residents once that's worked through in the early part of that financial year, we might say.
Bearing in mind, it will actually encourage people to use our car parks much more, so the quicker they get their £5 back. So in other words, it is actually an incentive for people to use the car parks to recover their £5. So I think it's a damn good idea, looking at it from an economical point of view.
Right. So I'm still going to take 3 separately because I said I would. But I hope that people can support that, or at least not object to it. John,
But just when you say 3, you want to split it into a part A and B, really?
Surely we have to take 3 separately, but if any member wishes to delete the £5 charge, then that member will need to put forward an amendment to 3 to say launch a residence parking scheme as described in section 3 of this report, save that there will be no charge for the issue, or words to that effect. In other words, it can be taken separately, but if the £5 charge is not to be levied, then the member who doesn't want must propose an amendment to that. Is that correct, Darryl?
Through you, Leader, that would be my take as well, Chair. I mean, it would be in essence, because we're looking at as described in section 3 of this report, section 3.4 or paragraph 3.4 states there will be a fee of £5 per application to join the scheme in order to cover the council's administrative costs. So picking up on the amendment point, it would almost be to recommendation 3, launch your residence parking discount scheme as described in section 3, with the exception or with the subject to deletion of section 3.4.
Okay.
I'm happy to put that forward.
So you're going to put that forward as an amendment to 3, and I'll take 3 separately on that. Okay. In fact, what we could do is we could vote on that. If we vote on that now, so an amendment to 3 is that we delete 3.4, which would be the £5 application to join the scheme.
Do I need a seconder? Do I have a seconder?
Okay, so we've got a proposal and a seconder for that amendment to 3. Do you want to debate that, or do we feel that we've covered it already? I can't see any involved. So could I see all those in favour?
In favour of the amendment.
In favour of the amendment, yeah.
So do you want me to just say what the amendment will be? So part 3 of the recommendation, which on the screens currently reads, launch a residence parking discount scheme as described in section 3 of this report. The amendment will be on the end, subject to deletion of sentence 3.4 contained in the report.
essentially you are voting to decide whether you agree there should be no charge. So if you vote for the amendment, you're voting that there will be no charge of an admin fee. That's the amendment
For
that's
the
being
discount
put.
scheme.
Yeah.
We've already agreed you can have as many cars as you want. That was one thing that we talked about, that we limited it to 2, but we've got rid of that limit.
But are we not voting on whether there should be residents' discount?
So we're doing it in 2
opposed to a fee?
parts. We're doing it in 2
Okay.
parts. So the amendment is just on the point of whether there should be a charge or not. And there's a proposal from Councillor O'Callaghan that there should not. So you're voting on that amendment. Do you support the fact there should be no charge? If you do, then you would vote for the amendment, no charge. If you don't, then you vote against that. Having dealt with the amendment, we'll then come back to the whole recommendation at that point.
And do we get to discuss it before we do the vote? Because I have a question.
Yeah, you can discuss it
So
now.
if we're taking away the admin fee, where is that money going to be recovered from?
Well, that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that we will have an admin fee for doing that, and this will cover its costs. If we don't have it, we will have to cover that costs from elsewhere within the parking system. Now, look, I mean, my view is we haven't had the final financial settlement, but it is looking pretty stark at the moment, and that we're going to need all the funds that we can get. And I would prefer that extra money that we raise from car parking to be spent on funding the car parks rather than funding the administration fee for the discount fee. So that would be my thing. I mean, also, I just wondered if you were in favour or against the residents' discount scheme. Because did you want to discuss that as well, or is it just the charge?
I was just unclear on what we were voting on, because you'd added another level to that point as to whether we were voting whether there should be a discount scheme or whether or not we were voting on whether that should be.
No. This is just purely on the charge to join the scheme. Yeah, so that we would still have a residents' discount scheme with that in there, but it would be no charge, or we do charge the admin fee.
But we also have to bear in mind that admin fee has to come from somewhere.
John?
Yes, I mean, I think it's relevant. I mean, I am going to vote for this because I think we need to move this thing along, and then there's going to be a consultation and it might change, and that's good. But I remain of the opinion that this is far too complicated and unnecessary, and that I don't really support a residence parking discount scheme. I think we need a flat, simple scheme that, and I know that the feedback that I've had from various residents and parish councils, etc., is that there is this perception that we're attacking tourists, the tourist industry, and by basically levying a bigger charge on them. I know that you can sell this as being a discount charge for residents, but I mean, it's either way. I just think this is unnecessarily complicated now, and from an administration point of view, it would be so much simpler just to have a flat rate. I'm not talking about the standardising charging. I'm just talking about the rate. No differential charging, and it would make the administration so much simpler. The costs, the overheads to the council would be so much less. It would be simpler to administer, and I don't really understand the benefits that differential charging are bringing to the party here. Really, yeah.
Okay.
As I said before, crumbs razor or the KISS principle, whichever way you want to do it, it doesn't seem to be. I can't see the real benefit.
Okay. Well, I mean, John, as you said in your opening statements, it's going out to public consultation, and I think it's only fair that local residents in the South Ham should have the opportunity about whether they feel that they should pay more for their parking, or that whether visitors should actually help to subsidise some of the services that we provide for them, which at the moment they don't pay for at all. Now, that's the decision that they may think that actually it's more important that we are open our arms to visitors to such an extent that they're prepared to put their hand in their pocket and pay extra for car parking. But, we can't really, it's not really, well, it is, in the end, we will take that decision, but I think that we should put it out there and ask them if they think it's an option. But I hear what you're saying, John, and I think there are elements of it, and maybe if we knew what we were going to get to on this, we might not have done it. But I mean, I still think it's the right thing to do. I think that visitors, let's face it, if you look at the benchmarking, we will still be one of the cheapest places to park in Devon. If these car parking charges were what decided what made towns or areas in Devon successful or not, then we would be one of the most successful. I mean, we are, as it happens, that's because we've got wonderful places to visit. But I don't think, if you think of places like Lyme Bay or Padstow or St Ives, who charge probably double what we charge, they are still incredibly successful. So I think this sort of idea that somehow we're driving visitors away just doesn't. I don't think it stacks up. In the end, we will have incredible data on who's visiting what car parks. Jed's already using that, and we will know that if we are driving people away and we are losing footfall, then obviously we will have to think again. But this we have this before us. Anyway, right. So going back, so we've got an amendment to 3, which has been proposed and seconded. So can I see all those in favour of the amendment, which means we would not charge an admin charge for the residents discount scheme? So all those in favour, please show.
That's 2 in favour of the amendment, I think, Leader.
And those against?
4 against the amendment, Leader.
And abstentions. A sort of, yeah.
The amendment is therefore lost, Leader.
Yeah. Okay, right. Do we need to take 3 separately now, or should we just do all 6, 5, 6? Is it 5? All 5 recommendations as they are. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want to carry on?
No, I was just going to say. I mean, bearing in mind that we. That I did say that in number 1, small, 2 and 3, they have thrown up anomalies, and I think that if the feedback we get, I'm not expecting somebody from Dartmouth to support Kingsbridge necessarily in that, but it may be that So what I'm saying is, if the Kingsbridge residents that reply to the public consultation say we just think this is too much, and then or the Kingsbridge area, I should say, then I think we'd have to change it. David, sorry.
Thank you, Leader. I'm just looking at the recommendation and the proposals to publish the notice of proposals to amend and the amendments that are listed. Presumably, if you pass recommendation 3, then there would be a 4th amendment, which would be to refer to the residents discount scheme, because that would be part of the off-street parking places order. So this would be part of your statutory consultation. So otherwise, if you don't include it, then you will need to consult again as part of the formal process of amending the order, if that makes sense.
So David, you're saying that in order to comply with the statutory consultation, we need to include that formally within part 1.
If that's agreed.
Yeah. Okay, I think I understand. It's otherwise we won't be meeting the statutory test on it. Just in time, David.
David, can I just check? Can you see what Daryl's put up on there? I'm not quite sure if the wording's quite right on that.
I think it's to amend the off-street parking places order as follows: to include a residents parking discount scheme. as described in section 3 of the report. And then obviously members of the public are able to express their views on that as part of the consultation. And then it's up to you when it comes back to decide whether that's the way you go forward.
Thank you, David, for that. That makes sense. Right, members, so we've got the 5 recommendations before us. In short, this is to send this document out to public consultation with the various charges in it and to see what the public think about this new scheme. So I'll propose that. Can I have a seconder? Dan, happy? Can I see all those in favour, please show?
That's unanimous for those recommendations. Thank you, then.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to say that's the end of it, but it's not. Yeah. It'll be back again, and I'm sure it will be again. And as I said right from the start, I would love it if we didn't have to do this, but we live in the real world. We've got to balance our budget, and hopefully the things that we can do by balancing the budget in order to support our town centres will more than compensate for any of this disquiet. Victor,
is that still okay legally that we voted on recommendations 1 to 5, but because 3's been moved into 1?
I think you were clear what you were voting on. I hope you were.
No, so I will declare the meeting closed. And massive thank you to Stuart and Emma. Brilliant. Thank you. And like I said, it's not over
go
yet.
and lie down in a quiet room over Christmas. You'll be needed again.
Yeah.
About time.